We're gonna go through a couple different exercises to help create stability in your hip, knee, and ankle. So these three joints really have to work together, especially when we're golfing. If you don't have mobility in one of these, you're gonna probably start to feel it in your low back. So a lot of the stuff that we go over today is gonna help your low back get better. This very first exercise, what I want you to do is we're gonna shift all your weight under your left leg. Good? A little bit of bend in your ankle, your knee, and your hip. And now let's stay facing forward, so towards the camera. With your opposite leg, let's reach out and tap down. So 12 o'clock, let's go out to the side, 3 o'clock, and then back, 6 o'clock. Now we're gonna come back. So both of us make this look pretty easy. We can balance. So on a flat surface with our shoes on, it should be pretty easy to do this. But if you're really wobbling here, just start with this part. For people that do well with it, we're gonna add in a little bit of instability. Okay. So I'm gonna have you kick your slipper off, and we're gonna do the same exact thing on the pad. So take a second, kind of find your balance, tap, tap, tap. Good?
And this is for stability?
Yes.
Okay.
So a lot of times when we have an injury, maybe it's knee, ankle, or something in your hip, we don't rehab back to the muscles that are supposed to do the job for you. So by challenging this, think of when we sprint, you're moving at a fast speed. Every time you land, your body has to try to stabilize before we go on to the next step. By breaking it down like this, we're getting each of those muscle groups to work, and you're kind of teaching those three joints to communicate together again.
Got it.
So even though this one seems really simple, it's a great way to start to create that stability. And you'll see with a lot of people, we get a little shaky in the ankle. We usually recommend doing this about 3 sets of 10 to 15. You know, do that on both legs or just on the affected side. We can progress this a little bit further by making this more like a step up onto the stability pad. Ultimately, as long as we're challenging the stability, we're gonna be working on those joints.
Got it.
Awesome. What do we got next? This next exercise, again, we can do this not on the stability pad. I know this will be really easy for you without it.
Okay.
So we're gonna get in a position, what we call a suitcase carry. So we're using a weight, but we just have it on one side, and I'm gonna have you bring your leg up, keep your shoulders and hips level, and we'll go back to the ground and bring the other one up. Your focus is that when your leg goes down, I want you to try to contact the mat with like the ball of your foot and your heel at the same time. So kind of keep your toes up.
Okay.
And when you come down, that nice smooth transfer of weight so it doesn't feel like you're tipping. All right, so now that you kind of have a feeling for it, I'm gonna give you the weight.
Okay.
So she's gonna fight to keep her shoulders and her hips level throughout the exercise. Good, down, here, really, really good. Now try to keep, not kind of slide over side to side. You're doing pretty good, but stay right in the center here. Good, good, good. So you can bring your foot down a little closer to the other one.
Okay.
There you go, there you go.
So you have to use your core a lot.
Good for the core. When you do this, you're gonna feel kind of light up center, and it's gonna wrap around right to the center of the back. So if she's feeling this all left side, I would do 10 marches, and then we're gonna switch hands. As long as you're not feeling like acute pain, it's not like her back's killing her right now or something, this is great for stabilizing the back. So if somebody feels like, man, every time when I finish the round or halfway through, I'm getting back pain, and it gets really stiff and achy, typically that's a sign that the small muscles in your back, they're not doing their job. They're not providing stability, so then your bigger muscles are trying to do both jobs, and you can't juggle between stability and mobility.
Right.
So even though this seems really simple, going back to that example that when we run, or when we're moving fast, our body has to completely stabilize before we do the next thing. So we recommend clients do this 3 sets of 10, but you can, we can do as heavy a weight as you can handle that you can keep your shoulders level.
Okay.
So this is something I really recommend people build into their routine. So like when you're doing lower body, this is great. And we really like to focus here on single leg stuff. So that's more realistic when we're moving. Even in golf, with both our legs down, they do very different things. One's rotating out, one's rotating in. Right. So it's a great way to really stabilize the back. So this, I like the stability march if you're more like limited on space, you're working out at home, you don't want to cover a lot of ground. But we can also do the same exact thing, so holding it. And I would actually recommend this as like our starting exercise, progressing to the march, because we're doing it flat surface. I do like going barefoot or in the socks because we're just challenging the ankles a little bit more, and you're not having your shoes maybe cover up some inefficiency that you have.
Okay.
So we can kind of do this towards the camera, just a demo, but all you're gonna do, shoulders and hips level, walking straight forward. That's it. So typically we do this about 20, 25 yards, and then we'd have you turn around, come back, and then you'd switch hands and do the same thing. So if for some reason you couldn't really cover a lot of ground, we could just use a really heavier kettlebell, maybe as heavy as you can hold without like tipping or having to overcompensate and just stay still. But then I'd ask you to start doing the march on the flat surface and we'd progress up to the stability pad.
Right.
So we don't have a lot of space, static hold to then the marching on the pad.
Got it.
We have space to do it, the suitcase carry. This is a great exercise, again, to build into the routine when you're working like back or legs, just as one of your exercises. Don't think of it as, hey, I'm going to do rehab today, or I'm going to do strength, but by building them in together, especially the marching one, it's one of my favorites on the pad, you break a sweat pretty quick.
Right.
All right? So let's get into a little bit of range of motion. These are great, I would say, as a warm-up, but also to make sure that you actually have control over these different areas in your body. The first one, we'll start with crossing our arms like this. This one throws people off. We're just gonna move the hips. Is that a part of your body?
I think it was my back.
So she makes it look easy. I think I make it look easy. But people get really thrown off when they start to do this. Just focus on one of your hips, right hip, drive it towards the camera, and then drive it backwards. You're doing it. This is allowing us to separate the motion that happens up here in our mid-back versus our low back. So making sure we actually have the mobility. This can also be used kind of diagnostically. So if you're doing it before your round, you're doing this at the gym and you're like, I can push this one forward, but this barely moves. That's gonna give us more of a clue of where we need to work to increase mobility.
Right.
So once we've done this for the low back, then we can move up to mid-back. For this one, I like to have patients hold their arms out in front of them. I'm gonna get a little wider with my legs here, and then we're just gonna go side to side. Stay facing forward, so try to keep the head forward. Good. So as she does this, we're generating almost all that rotation right in the middle of the spine. So in your swing, making sure you can get all the way back and come through nice and easy.
Right.
I like to start with this one first and then go to the back. As long as you're doing both, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But this is showing you how to get that motion in between the two.
Got it.
We're gonna bend forward a little bit. So similar to kind of the spine line that you may maintain when you're like approaching your shot, right? From here, arms crossed, we're gonna roll our pelvis forward. So that should flatten your back. What that's doing is that's creating space. So it's allowing those discs
Like
to...
the cat and cow.
Yeah, this is like a standing cat-cow, but it's also a little more functional for exactly what we're doing. And then the next part, going back, so really try to increase the curve, decrease the curve. Increase, decrease.
What does it do?
So this, just like our cat-cow, we're compressing your spine and decompressing. So if anyone's ever noticed when you first wake up in the morning, you feel like some pressure in your low back, it's just because those discs, the little shock absorbers, they've rehydrated when you sleep.
Okay.
As we age, that disc stays at 100%, but the little wear and tear in our spine, we might have like a 97% space with 100% disc.
Got it.
So what you feel in the morning is kind of like a little achy, a little pressure. So if people feel that stiff back, this is a great exercise to decompress, compress, because as you compress, it forces out irritation. As you decompress, it allows you to take in hydration. So kind of out with a bad, in with a good.
Yeah.
You need to do this kind of high rep. And the one thing we forgot to say is definitely look side to side to make sure no one's watching before you go into this one. So from here, we're forward, back, but we want to do about 30 reps.
Oh, wow.
So as she's doing that, that's no different than if I'm here and we're doing our pelvic tilt and my knees bent, I'm gonna draw my belly button in, rocking forward, rocking back. That's exactly what she's doing.
She just disappeared.
We just saw her.
Just imagine. So, if you turn and face me, what we're seeing is as she goes forward, go forward again. As she tilts forward, we're opening up the space in her back. So we're giving those discs more space. As we go opposite and we compress them together, that's forcing out that irritation. Good.
I feel the exercise.
You feel like when it goes back, is it like tighter, or you just feel like it's getting easier?
I feel like it's an exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Totally.
I feel it in my back.
And to get a little more out of this, really try to draw that belly button to the spine. We say not like you're tightening the corset, but you're just gently kind of drawing that in.
What does that mean?
So when I say pull the belly button into the spine, so we're trying to kind of hollow out our stomach a little. When you do that, it's more activating that, like your diaphragm and those internal muscles that make up your core, as opposed to like our abs, or more of what we can see, the muscles that do the movement when we crunch. So when you do
Kind
that,
of sucking in.
yeah, we're kind of hollow out a little bit, and now go through. That's giving you more control over those small muscles. Awesome. So again, this one's great if you feel some stiffness. If you feel like pain in your back, just when you wake up in the morning, that's where we want to do our pelvic tilt. So reproducing exactly what you did, you just be lying face up in bed, knees bent, and you're doing that same exact motion.
Got it.
Okay? Another one that we can add for the hip, so if we want to do our side to side, then this, we can also move our hips up and down, right? So with the arms crossed, think about trying to bring the top of that left hip up to the sky. So bringing your hip closer to your ribs, and
Without
then,
moving your feet.
right, and then opposite, bringing that right hip up closer. So not so much side to side, but think of, I'm gonna bring this up. So almost get your heel off the ground a little. Good. And now drop the heel, other side, up. Good. This is also good to follow up what we just did here with our tilts. So when we're doing that, it's just compress, decompress, but now we're kind of doing it on the sides too. So that she brings her left hip up, we're closing that space a little bit, right hip up, close that space a little bit. So it's gonna be a more complete way to decompress that disc. More body control as well, and with any of these, like we always say, it's kind of diagnostic, because if she sees, I really can't bring this one up, are we really tight below or above, or is there something in the back that's stopping that from happening?
Right.
So, I'm gonna have you put one heel here, right
One
side.
heel.
Yep, and kind of bend the knee like that. Same thing on the other side. So what we're gonna do to start here is I want you to take your right knee to the left. Yep, and this one outside. So touch down, and then we're gonna go opposite. Touch down, good. So repeat that a couple times. So this is really good, especially when you think of our golf swing as we go through, we have to have that internal rotation on one side, open on the other. This really helps increase that range of motion. And not only is this good for stretching, good to figure out if you do have a problem in that area. So if one side's a lot harder to drop down, after we do it equal on both sides, she might just want to spend time in this position. Say like, maybe her left hip is harder to get down. Now we can spend some time in this position and try to sink into it. So to take this one a little bit further, let's go back to the start position. I'm gonna have you come towards me, but with your left arm, reach over towards me, and you're gonna keep coming over. So this, go here, bring my arm, you go right in between the other one, and we can get a little lower. Good, now let's go to the other side. So now we're starting to incorporate a little bit more of what's going on in her back. And she might notice on one side, harder than the other. If she gets over here, and maybe this feels like a big stretch, now we can bend the elbow a little to drop your body further down.
That's more of a stretch?
Yep, more of a stretch through there. Let's come the other way, open up.
Oh, I do feel a really big stretch.
A lot of times when people go through this, you might hear some movement in the back, you might hear some things release, some little pops and clicks. It tells us we're getting some movement and we're actually creating some space in those areas. Good. All right, let's go ahead and stand up. We're gonna kind of back up and try to get down. Bring your arms back if you can, but think of trying to move the middle of your back down towards the floor. So with my butt tiny, what I'm trying to create, like my butt is up, So I kind of have that space in my low back.
Okay.
So thinking about trying to hang your spine kind of.
Okay. And what does this one do?
So this, helpful for creating some extension in the mid back. So if you really struggle to get rotation in your swing, if we can decompress it and create some of that extension, it's really gonna give us a better ability to get there. A lot of people feel a big stretch on a tricep here.
I feel it right here.
Yes, we should be trying to force this down towards the ground. So creating that extension. A lot of times in life, especially our society, we're very forward driven. We're driving a car, we're on our phone, everything's forward and we're kind of rounded. This helps us create that extension. Good, and for this exercise, we'll have people get into the position and really just hang out here for like 20, 30 seconds and try to sink into that. Then you can come out for a little bit, go back. I would say probably go through it 3 times.
So this is a thoracic spine rotation exercise that I like to give to people to really isolate down to this region, because we do a lot of stretches and mobilities where we get the whole spine, but not a lot to focus in the mid back, where we get a lot of tightness, especially in the golf swing. If you got a tight mid back, it's hard to rotate all the way around. So this is really specific to that area. What I'm gonna have you do is get down onto all fours for me, please. And we're gonna lower down, for this sake, onto our left elbow. Perfect. You're going to take your right hand and place it behind your neck. And you're going to, are you familiar with the thread the needle exercise?
Kind of.
Similar. So this is a similar premise, but this time what we're going to be doing is taking our right elbow and touching to our left elbow. There we go. And then we're going to rotate that right elbow as far as we can up to the ceiling, trying to maintain a flat pelvis parallel to the ground. So we're really just focusing to this region here. So if we rotate down, touch the elbows and rotate up, you should feel a little bit of mobility and some sensation through the mid back here. Now, if you have a partner with this exercise, you can increase the amount of intention and focus into the mid back by, as they come up rotating, helping pull back. Again, trying to limit to the thoracic spine. If we were to do the regular thread the needle exercise, we would get a lot more lumbar spine rotation here as well. Let's have you do the same thing on the opposite side. So down on that right elbow, left hand behind the neck. There we go. Take the left elbow to the right elbow and rotate out. Feeling the muscles back here working, creating mobility and strength into the thoracic spine. And again, if you've got a partner, what the partner can do is take both elbows onto her back, keeping your hand on the back of your neck. There we go. And pull that elbow back, that shoulder back, creating more motion through the mid back here.
Yeah, I feel it like right here.
That's exactly what we're looking for. It's often overlooked in the mid spine, so this is a really specific one for that. So just like we were doing standing, moving our pelvis and isolating the region of our lumbar spine, getting more mobility and flexibility through our spine through the cat-cow exercise is very beneficial. Now, this is a great warm-up or cool down after a round of golf, because backs can be stiff either before or after. So for the cat-cow position, we're just going to get into what we call the quadruped position, or on all fours in the tabletop position. So hands and knees for me, please. We're going to start by letting our head drop, and as we let our head drop, we're going to imagine a string in our upper lumbar spine, lower thoracic spine, pulling our abdomen up towards the ceiling. So as we drop our head, everything gets pulled up, squeezing our belly, sucking our head, dropping the head, creating a big curve through the spine. And then we're going to do the opposite motion. We're going to let everything sink down, lift the head up, perfect. Creating flexion and extension through the lumbar and thoracic spine, as well as the cervical spine. So a full spine mobility exercise. We're going to rock back and forth, creating motion through here. Help eliminate stiffness and tightness pre-round and post-round. Beautiful. Again, decompressing the spine, compressing the spine. Different positions. Fundamental exercise for mobility and strengthening of the spine.
So the next thing we're gonna go through is a nice stretch for your neck. So for Kat, we're gonna pretend that left side of her neck is bothering her. She's sitting on the bench, so I'm gonna have her grab right here, anchor her hand. We're gonna shift her shoulders to the right, so kind of translate over, and then drop her head to the right as far as she can. Take her hand, She's gonna reach over, hold her head, and just kind of let this drop and use the weight of her arm. So she's not pulling super hard, but just letting the weight of that kind of pull her over. You wanna do this nice and gentle. For any stretch, our kind of minimum effective dose is about 20 seconds. So she's gonna stay here for about 20, and then we can switch sides. So drop that hand, anchor. You can come a little closer. I'm gonna get a little wide. There we go. Go over first, so hold on, come back, come back. All right, go to the left. So you feel the little stretch here. Now, drop the head, good. Hand, weight of the hand, good. And you should feel a good stretch through here.
Yeah.
If your problem in your neck is a little bit more towards the top of the shoulder, we can adjust this by turning your head a little bit more, so kind of angle the outside. Then we're gonna bring her elbow also in. And now when you drop, a little more of that direction instead of this direction. So side of your neck, angle to the side, back of the neck, there's a muscle that connects the top of the shoulder to the base of the skull. We wanna go this direction. So kind of a 45-degree angle. She's just outside of that opposite knee. Awesome. All right. Do you have any issues going on?
Any issues?
Yeah.
Not in my neck, but like kind of in my back.
More mid-back, low back?
High back.
Yeah, between the shoulders.
Yeah.
You had that for a while?
Yeah, for like 6 years.
No big deal. Good chunk of your life there. So I'm gonna spend just a little bit more in here so the adjustment feels good. In our neck, and really in our whole spine, we have really small muscles that are just going from like one segment to the next. And that provides like your stability. When you damage those, that's when you start to use more of the big muscles.
Right.
So if somebody like, they're like, man, my neck's just so tight all the time, it probably means these little small muscles, like
Yeah.
you damage it at one point.
Yeah.
I liked, this is really simple, but it's like just pushing on those little muscles as we rotate. So I'm lengthening that little muscle with pressure. So that helps kind of restore the function. When we go to do the actual adjustment, it's gonna be way easier to move it, where a lot of people are just like, oh, it's here. And they go to adjust. It's like, you haven't really warmed up or like
Right.
finessed that area at all. And it's like quite aggressive.
Right.
Like, like you can, if I were to really push in there, it's like,
Yeah.
it's kind of sore. So I'm gonna
Right.
go like a little bit above, that segment above, connected to that one. I'm just gonna do some easy rotation here.
Oh.
So we're gonna do a couple easy adjustments, all right?
Okay.
When I adjust, I use the inside part of my thumb.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna turn your head away. It's a straight pressure across. It's not
Okay.
this crazy like rotation, right? When you hear the pops and clicks,
Okay.
we're just opening up, like we talked about the disc a lot out there. When you hear that, it's just the gas releasing from the joint.
Okay.
Nothing's breaking. So we're gonna rotate here, here. Good. So I'm using my thumb, a little pressure across. Good.
Oh my god.
Feel okay with that?
Yeah.
So we're gonna go a little lower on this one. Same thing, little pressure right here. Turn your head to the left, little pressure straight across.
Oh my god.
Good. So definitely a little compression in there. You can hear that motion, hear that good release of like that
Whoa.
gas actually
I've
coming up.
never cracked my neck before.
Really? I thought we did last time a little bit. I can't remember because you did a
Maybe
lot of
my
elbow stuff.
Sister.
Yeah.
But like she does it on like a regular basis.
Just moves around.
Yeah.
And that tells me it's like if you always move and feel something, you might have a little hypermobility. Which
Oh, right.
wouldn't surprise
Yeah.
me for either of you.
Right.
That's kind of the case. Good. So like that area we were stretching, the seated one, this is kind of how I would treat that. A lot of people have rotator cuff issues. This is one of the
Yeah.
primary like muscles for it. So I'll do something like this. the other rotator cuff, we got 3 of them really come together, like right here. So that spot, for a lot of people, that's pretty sore. And if I can open this up, we can really create a lot better like function of the shoulder. Right. So what I have you do is just kind of swing your arm up like that. Okay. So, yeah, go ahead, go. Good, come back. Okay, so you're gonna hold there. I'm gonna capture your arm here. My hand's gonna go under. You're just gonna feel a little pressure straight down.
Okay.
Okay, so from here.
Oh.
So you kind of felt that on the first one, the little pop is this joint, and then the other part was actually getting your shoulder blade to
I
kind
did
of
feel that.
move back a little bit.
Got it.
Because again, kind of some of the stuff out there when we're really forward, your shoulder blade itself is kind of more stuck there, right?
Yeah.
And then when you tell people like stand up straight, it's harder for them to get there.
Right.
Right. So let's go seated. Probably for the rest, we can go to the backed up one.
So which one are we doing?
So this would be like if you have golfer's elbow, traditional golfers on the inside, tennis on the outside. So there's a muscle that basically comes across, it turns your arm, but because it connects right here, that's where a lot of people feel that discomfort.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna start with it shortened. Kind of lengthen like that. Feel okay there? Yeah, that's definitely a little tight. Good. So we can kind of move into some wrist stuff. So with the wrist, really we can do a lot of different things. It just depends where you're restricted. If you get pain going back, is it because it's jammed or because this side is really tight? Yeah. So we can kind of just start to open this up. Through here.
I feel it kind of like go through my hand.
Like tingle almost a little. Yeah. So if people have like start to get numbness in their hands, basically your median nerve, there's 3 nerves that come down the arm. That median nerve shoots right through here. If you have a lot of tension with that muscle, it makes sense that it like cuts it off. Yeah. So what people feel is this, and then a lot of times if they do the surgery, they're cutting this, and it has nothing to do with it. Right, exactly. Because there's a retinaculum here, so basically just a soft tissue that kind of acts like a wristwatch to hold these tendons together, but it doesn't get tighter. It's just kind of set, where this muscle definitely can. Right. So I guess we can move through. So I'm gonna go through a couple with your fingers. Okay. Just kind of pull. Good. So if it gets jammed up a lot, typically not in golf, like in other sports. Like, to get that pressure. Yeah. So we did boom, boom, boom. Let's go on your back again, face up, and do some hip stuff. Okay. Oh. A little sensitive, right?
Wait, that like I feel it
down
here.
Your leg a little. Yeah. So this is an easy way to release your hip flexor a little bit, but a lot of the nerves run right through here too. That. Also, when we were out there, if you had a problem with like one hip moving forward, this is an easy way to release some of those tissues. Oh. And then we'll kind of take that down the leg as we go.
Whoa, I've never felt that before. It like went through the whole leg.
Like a little zing. Right? Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna
give it a little shock.
So on this side, I'm gonna go just under right here, okay? So I'm gonna tilt you in. I can get really close to the nerve here. Good. Right there. You feel a little bit of the same thing or no?
Not yet.
No? Okay. Gonna try to drop. Not too bad, right? Mm-hmm. So we're gonna do easy adjustment on your hip to create a little space, okay? So I'm gonna put your leg between mine, get a little pull to create that space, okay? I'm gonna feel a little space there. Good. Oh. Good. Do you feel that more ankle, knee, or hip?
I don't know.
Okay. A lot of things
I
moved.
don't know what.
You're good. All right.
Like I think here it cracked,
It created.
but
a
then
little
I
motion.
felt it in my
I think-
ankle. 'Cause
Yeah, your ankle moved more.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a little bit more through here. Good. All right, as I do this one, that's the same spot. That's less of like a sensation, right? Good.
Yeah.
Good, good, good.
Oh yeah, I don't feel the thing. The thing.
Okay, so we can do a lot of stuff with hips. Let's do this actually, since that's set up. Lie on your side and face that way again. Side back towards me just a little bit. Perfect, yep. I'm gonna hold your leg here. So this one, get right on the top of the hip. This is great for back pain people, so I'm gonna bring the leg up. Like that. And this one is really tender for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Especially if they have low back pain.
But this like runs up like at your spine, right?
Did you feel it go up your spine? What are you asking?
But I'm just asking like it like reflects off your spine too, right? Like if you have like back problems.
This, yeah, I would say the tension in these muscles for a lot of people are what lead to low back pain.
Right.
The reason for that, so this muscle is called your glute medius. Your glute max, so like our big glute muscle, big is relative, the fibers go like this, like out like that. So that's why if I really squeeze my butt and I go back, eventually I'm gonna do this and like rotate out.
Yeah.
The other muscle called glute medius, it actually starts in the front and it goes straight down. But it goes all the way around to like where your sacrum is. So if you imagine someone like puts a band around their knees and you like do this, you're activating that muscle. So it's just like me if I like hemmed the front of my pants super tight, now it's gonna be hard to go back.
Right.
So what happens is if I'm limited in how far I can go back, now right here, I'm gonna do that instead. So that's the difference of like, you could see someone maybe doing a leg extension and you can't really tell, are they using more of their actual glute and they have extension, or are they like just doing that?
Yeah.
And that will really compress those discs on the back part. And that's where you get like your sciatic pain or any of that stuff.
Right.
Kind of both of those, just hitting that meniscus, a little shock absorber. I actually do like rotational stuff with people and kind of work through here. Because again, with golf, it's not that like one-time mechanism injury, like getting hit in football, but all the time, like that rotation.
Like over rotation.
Exactly, and just over time, and it's like that one time your foot slips or your cleat's like more stuck and it doesn't really rotate, those can get like little tears. Or just kind of misalign a little bit. So we're just kind of like smooth that out. The other things we work a lot are like underneath here, which is usually just releasing a lot of this tension. I'll do the adjustment for the knee. It's similar to what I did on that side, except I'm gonna put my hands right here and you'll actually feel just this one move.
Okay.
So you felt more just like direct on that one, right?
Yeah.
Slide up a little bit. I'm actually gonna have you go face down and I'll start to do some ankle stuff.
Face down this way or
face
this way?
here,
Face here.
arms on the side. Okay, your ankle mobility is really good.
Oh, really?
So we're basically just looking like, how does she do here? She's way like neutral would be there. Hers is pretty good. And then the other thing I look at is, does your ankle really go one way or the other? See how you're naturally like a little more here? So that tells me the ligaments on this side are a little shorter. If I can release those, we can kind of get there.
Oh, okay.
So really easy on this one. I'm just gonna kind of fold it in. I'll get my fingers there, and then we'll work to open this up.
Oh. So that like is how you walk too, right? Okay.
So that means whenever you're walking, like when this foot's up in the air, you're a little bit more here, and then your ground contact is gonna force your foot to like roll. As opposed to if it was already there, it's less of a correction.
Right.
So if we're trying to maximize you to be like an Olympic sprinter, it's like that little amount of time would really matter.
Right.
And that's why like Usain Bolt's such a badass, because when he puts his foot down, he perfectly hits like here and here, where amateur runners try to run on their toes. And it's like, well, how good is your balance when you hit here? You're like trying to stabilize.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like it in full speed.
Yeah.
But when he hits, it's like perfectly straight down, so you can go into the next step.
So you're supposed to.
Yeah.
Oh.
You want to be more like hit that ball with your foot. And if you think about it, between the ball of your foot and your heel, kind of like I was like teaching you on the march, if I have my toes up, it makes this like a pretty strong like spring. So when that comes down, and really that's like one of the strongest things. That's why, taking it further, like insoles and arch support to me is like, it doesn't make sense. Because one of the strongest structures is like a ridge, like that, if I push from the top. But how do you make it weaker? Push from the bottom. So if I do more of that, like by putting support there, it doesn't really help you.
Got it.
So we really educate people on like, how do you strengthen this? And there are exercises you can do for it.
Okay.
Let's have you go back on your back, do some ankle adjustments, and then I think we'll do some low back, and pretty good. So I'm gonna do a little more like ligament stuff. I won't do the adjustment. So same idea, it's like just putting my thumb in there, we're gonna work it to the outside. And then from here, you know, if you're more limited and going back, you can just find those areas that are bothering you and start to like now we're gonna do easy adjustment here, so you're just gonna feel like a pull.
Okay.
Okay. Good. Good. So you feel like
Is that mine? Or is that...
Yeah, that's yours. Good. Then slide back.
Wow.
Okay, so we're gonna do some adjustments on the low back. I'm gonna have you lie on your side facing me. Have you had your low back adjusted before?
I don't know.
Seems like a no. We'll walk you through this.
Not a long
So,
time.
I'm gonna pull your arm through. Kind of give yourself a hug here.
Okay.
Good. Bottom leg is straight.
Okay.
Top one's bent. I'm gonna slide you towards me. Just like that. Good. Now, top hand is gonna go right here on the shoulder. Other hand's on the low back. You're gonna feel a little pressure in my chest, a little with my arm, and a little down with my leg.
Okay.
Just like your neck, or we just did your neck so far. When you hear those pops and clicks, it's the same exact thing. Okay? So from here, take a big breath in for me. Good. Let that all the way out. Relax your shoulders. Good. Good. Let's go on your back. You feel okay with that?
Yeah.
Reactions. All right, let's come on this side. Okay, same thing. So I'm gonna hold you here. Take a big breath in for me. Good, let that out, hips roll. Good, on your back. All right, from here, I think we can capture this other one. So for the middle of your back, I'm gonna cross your arms.
Oh, there's a middle one too.
So you said you feel the discomfort more like kind of through there?
Yeah.
Okay, and again, it's like the more forward we are, I just wanna create some more of that extension.
Yeah.
So after doing some of that stuff, it's like great to do the adjustment here. I'm gonna roll you towards me.
Okay.
I'm gonna have you take a big breath in. You're just gonna feel some pressure down like a big hug. Okay. So let that out. Good. Good. I'm gonna go a little lower. Breathe in for me. Let that all the way out. Good. Good. So you feel that good motion on that first one, really good extension, and then a little bit on the second one. Okay. Anything else you want to capture?
No, I think that's good.
Well, thank you so much.